the Talkback, and we're going to welcome in my friend and yours, Matt Spenley, the Big Spend. He's got questions from you guys to us, and we're going to get right into it.
Nice, Ian. I'm surprised no one's hit me with that nickname before. It feels like an obvious one, right?
Yeah,
It's obvious to me.
What about the medium spend? Can we go with that?
I'm only 5'8" on a good day, so I'll take medium, honestly, because I've been called short a lot of my life. So, my nickname when I was playing youth basketball back in the day was Spoons. So I kind of like the direction you're going. That's better.
Gotta do the Lil, the L-I-L, the Lil.
I don't know. My boys were doing me dirty out here. Alex, I want to come right back to you because I think a lot of the trade discussion when we're talking about Mitch, it sounds like you and I kind of are on the same page. I just feel like all of these guys we're talking about, I just think Mitchell Robinson is better than these players, and I want to see him come back and get a chance to play. And I know that he's had the injury issues, but we saw how much of an impact he can have in the right matchups. So I guess I just want to know generally what your expectations are for Mitch once he comes back, and if you agree that I would just like to see the team with him and Cat with him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see him come back. He'll definitely help out on the offensive glass as he always does. He'll change the way teams attack the Knicks defensively just by being on the court. Having a guy that can block shots and literally lead the league in blocks. He has that ability. So that doesn't come around often, and he's very athletic if he's completely healthy. That I really want to see what the Knicks are with him, especially since the market is trash. All the guys that are out there are not great, and they're not going to make a difference. Like, if you had to trade him in the deal in the offseason for Towns, like, all right, fine, you have to do that. If the Timberwolves for some reason took that deal that was on the table, I think, Ian. And then, I wouldn't just trade him just to trade him. And, I'd love to see what they can get on the buyout market on the other parts of the roster. Maybe call up TJ Warren in like March and see how that goes and just go from there. And then in the offseason, reassess everything.
For sure. And I think we spend a lot of time talking about the buyout market, and we will, given the Knicks cap situation. But a lot of times those guys, too, are going to be a very marginal impact when it comes down to it. Yossi, I want to ask quickly about, because right as we were coming on, the Mavs, Derek Lively was ruled out for 2 to 3 months with an injury. I'm just curious because we spent a lot of time kind of talking about center trade market, how things go. And obviously, Dallas' situation, they're going to still look to kind of try to secure a playoff spot here. So their payroll situation, if they're anybody that the Knicks should keep an eye on, not even in terms of major pieces moving, just curious how they might approach that injury.
I would guess that the Mavs they also have the same kind of payroll restrictions as the Knicks right now. And I remember seeing some reports that they were looking to bring in another versatile wing to kind of replace what Derrick Jones brought them. Now I would imagine that's going to be on pause, but I would guess mainly because that would mean trading Maxi Kleber. So I guess that means they're going to keep him now through the trade deadline. If they get any reinforcements, probably just going to be someone making around the minimum, maybe a little more, someone that they can easily plug in. I know they have a trade exception, but also they just got to be able to stay below the first apron. I'm not sure how much space they have below it. They're roughly like, they're right at the first apron, actually. So they're going to have to send out a little something if they're going to make that type of trade. But I would guess they bring in maybe a $2 to $3 million big man, or maybe they just sign someone on a 10-day contract just to, or maybe see what the buyout market looks like. It's kind of rough timing right now with the trade deadline just 2 weeks away.
Right. I got a quick follow-up, sorry, for Yossi, just because I think it's important. The buyout market with the Knicks close to the second apron, what are their limitations there? Because it's not like they can just get anybody who ends up being bought out, right?
Right. The biggest thing is that they can't sign anyone who is making the mid-level exception or more. So the full one, the $12.8 million amount, if they were making exactly that or more, if they were making $1 more than that, they cannot sign that player if he gets bought out. So they're basically limited at just anyone else making below that.
And so like the veterans minimum prorated at that point, they could sneak in under the second apron.
Yeah, they should. If they don't do any other trades, if they don't decrease their payroll through some type of trade, I think they should be able to sign someone as early as like late February or early March to get to that 15th spot. So by then, the buyout market should already play out. Might be a little off on those dates. Maybe they could sign someone a little earlier. But either way, they are well positioned to get to be in the bidding for someone that they are allowed to sign that gets released right in time.
Yeah, well, TJ Warren definitely impressed them in camp, and obviously he's been playing well with the Westchester Knicks, so I certainly would be keeping an eye on him when they go to add that 15th player, and I think they ultimately will. I'm sorry, Matt. Big spin, medium spin. I cut you off. What do we have next?
Ian, it's your show. Come on, you can do whatever you want. I'm just here to serve you. You. I'm coming right back to you, luckily, and then I want to get Alex's take after. Our guy, the cooler, is asking, the Knicks are beating up on bottom feeder teams, but have yet to beat the title contenders, OKC, Houston, Boston, Cleveland. Obviously, we've seen, a variety of exposure to those teams so far yet this season, but it's going to be the big conversation. They've definitely, beat up on some of the lower teams, haven't necessarily been able to take down those top title contenders. So how do you feel about the Knicks? Should we be concerned?
I mean, eventually they have to do it, right? I think the cooler brings up a good point. Eventually you got to beat some of these teams in the regular season to, I think even just to feel good about kind of where you are as a team. Because, the Knicks, I think in that locker room, it's been up and down, wins and losses. And I think they haven't yet kind of coalesced as a unit. I think there's still some kind of disparate parts there. And I think that's natural when you're bringing in all these different pieces that they have brought in. And Josh Hart was saying last night, he was kind of mocking the media for blowing his quotes about egos and individual agendas out of proportion. But he did say the Knicks were still kind of working towards that place where everybody was bought in. They've made progress to get to that place. And so he's saying they're not all the way there yet. And so, yeah, I do think that just from a team building perspective, team cohesion perspective, winning those games will be big. And then obviously just proving it to everybody else. They have Sacramento, they have Memphis coming up. So a good test after these days off here, and we'll see where they land.
Alex, what do you think?
Man, I just kind of zoned out. Can you repeat me the question? I'm sorry, but I was listening, and then I was just
the top teams, like kind of how they've beat up on a lot of the lower teams. There you go.
Honestly, you gotta play who's in front of you. You can't apologize for winning. You got to play who's in front of you. Eventually, they'll beat teams that are the top tier. You're beating. They keep moving the goalposts. First, you're beating, you can't beat over 500 teams. You beat the Hawks, you beat a couple of teams, and then you move the goalposts. You can't beat the top 4 teams in the NBA. Well, the Knicks are one of the top 4 teams in the NBA, 5 teams in the NBA. So, you can't play them every day. You'll get there, and we'll see what happens. I just feel that looking for negativity, a lot of Knicks fans are, and the Knicks, aren't the team from last year. A lot of people think that they're not as good as last year. They're not what they were last year, but they have a better record at this point now than they did last year. So this team is way more talented, and they haven't even played well yet and haven't even clicked yet. So I'm very positive about this team. I just don't dwell on the negative things and worry about these, not beating the top teams in the NBA. It's hard to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're a powerhouse, and they're without 3 of their best players right now, and the Cavs are incredible right now, and the Celtics are the champs. I mean, these guys and these teams are great. So, it's going to be hard to beat them. And, when you play them in a series, you'll have more than one shot at them per month. So, then we'll find out what's going on. But, I think the Knicks will be fine. Long story short.
Just to clarify, one quick thing. Was that a Sweeney Murdy Francesa moment? Did anybody see Alex nodding off there? Did we catch him snoozing?
I wasn't snoozing. I was just kind of listening, and then I was just like, all right. And I was making sure my eyes were at the camera, and then I was just like, well, then you went to me. I'm like, oh, shoot. Where was I?
You got a young child at home. We get it. I love Sweeney, but I want to make sure that I didn't get Francesa there.
Yeah.
I got one final one because the Jets are hiring Aaron Glenn to be their next coach. The news from Schefter just came out right now. So I have other work to do. So we got one final question. Don't worry, we're not missing anything else. Ian's take on Aaron Glenn. No, I'm just kidding. Speaking of the NFL, the final thing I want to bring up is just the Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Commanders, Eagles. Ian kind of stirring the pot a little bit, bringing this up. Now, as a Giants fan growing up, it makes me sad because, you love to watch these Knicks, and then seeing these guys root for these teams, especially Brunson and the Eagles, it just hurts. So I want to know what we think about the New York guys being at odds here, and I need everybody's Super Bowl pick.
Ooh. I'm going to start, and I'll just say that there was a bet that was put on the table between Hart and Brunson, and hasn't been agreed to yet, but it would be entertaining if it did come to fruition. I think those guys are still figuring it out, but I would expect some kind of bet between those
sources
two guys.
say. Right.
Yeah, and I'll let someone else go from there.
Well, I'll go. I mean, I think it's going to be Chiefs and Commanders. I think the Chiefs aren't going to lose at home, and the Commanders, I think, are just riding high. I think they're going to get the Super Bowl. Be happy to be there. Chiefs are going to win the third straight, but I think that's where I'm going.
I want to hear my man Yossi.
I don't watch football, but I would guess the Eagles win it all.
All right. That's it, guys. That's what I got today.